Good morning, and thank you for those who are joining us today. My name is Buna George. I serve as the Executive Director to the Greater Yuma Port Authority, and we welcome you to our binational webinar with Focus in Logistics. This is a collaborative event between Greater Yuma Port Authority, Greater Yuma Economic Development Corporation, OPRO de San Luis Rio Colorado, and Forefront ED as a means to highlight just the assets of our region. And this week we are joined by Mr. Russ Jones, a man who either requires little to no introduction and or 4 pages of it. We had talked about that in the introduction. So we are going to focus on Mr. Jones, who currently serves as the president and CEO of R.L. Jones Management Group. With his many years of experiences along the U.S.-Mexico border and successful business implementation between Arizona, Texas, and California, we're thrilled you accepted our invitation, Mr. Jones. Thank you so much. And we just felt it was very appropriate with your presentation, what makes up an international 3PL. So with that, again, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it and looking forward to what you have to say to us in your presentation. So with that, thank you so much.
All right, well, thank you very much, Boone. I appreciate the invitation. I must say good morning to everyone that's out there. This is a lot less intimidating on Zoom than if I was speaking to everybody in a large group. So and everything seems to be a little bit more, a little less informal. Yes, I'm going to talk about what makes up an international 3PL. There's going to be a lot of acronyms. I hope I can explain them all correctly as we go through the presentation. I'm kind of a sort of local boy. I was raised in Calexico. My family moved to the Imperial Valley in Calexico in 1905. And so we've been around the border a long time, and our firm was actually started by my grandfather back in 1938. I'm third generation. Fourth generation is already working in the business, and probably can't wait till I leave. Hopefully I've got a few more years here. I can be productive and add to it. I'm currently like a chairman of the board. That's our management group, I'm not at an operational level where our EDR and R.L. Jones brokers are. We started as a customs brokerage firm, so we're customs brokerage centric. I'm not going to explain what a customs broker does, because all of you from this region should know what customs brokers do, but may not be aware of what a 3PL is. And that's something we've evolved into. You see on the first slide here, it's got our mission statement, who we are, and our vision statement that we have all put together. It also lists offices. The presentation I'm using is one that is used by our staff and management in San Diego Otay when they're making presentations to clients. So some of the information pertains just to San Diego Otay, but most of it is applicable anywhere in our system. A little bit of it is dated, and because we've been growing so fast. I mentioned offline before we came on, I had a meeting this morning with the port director, and the commercial traffic through the Port of San Luis, for instance, has grown in the last year by 225%, and it's still growing. So incredible growth, incredible numbers here. Our volumes and pedestrians and vehicles make San Luis the 4th busiest port in the customs system. So we got a lot to be proud of in this area and in the whole region. The numbers that are right there with San Luis are Calexico and Calexico East, and then Otay, where this presentation is a little bit more directed to, because it's more comprehensive. Since then, we've established warehousing and forwarding operations in Laredo, Texas. We're also in Santa Teresa, New Mexico. And so we have 10 locations on the southern border in all 4 border states. And we're upwards around 8. If you look at both sides of the border, we're about 800 employees. So next slide, please. Bingo. Okay, what do we do? Customs brokers, I said, that's what our primary business is. But over time, we've evolved into warehousing and distribution and global logistics. And that is what a 3PL means, third-party logistics company. In other words, we offer a buffet of logistics services, not just the customs brokerage. We do international and domestic freight forwarding. We do warehousing. We manage inventories. We do distribution. Cross-docking, we actually have 2 trucking companies that are subsidiaries that work in international drayage and regional trucking that are not even included in this presentation here. But this does give a good idea. If you look through the items that we're doing here, like the domestic OTR, that has to do with domestic freight forwarding. Once goods are imported, cleared, clients will have us do the freight forwarding to other domestic and United States locations. So rather than go through all this list, let's go to the next slide. Supply chain security, you've heard a lot about that lately, and the problems with the Suez Canal and how much that's backed up. In Los Angeles, Long Beach, that port is so backed up where they process 15 container ships a day. They're backed up by over 30, close to 40 container ships. And what does this do? It backs up everything in the supply chain. So people who need parts and materials to keep their production lines going are out in the ocean waiting to get offloaded. So these challenges during the COVID has been, some of the challenges that it does to the supply chain, even though COVID seems to be, we're coming out of that and recovering and close and on the right road there, we still have a long way to go with logistics. The security of that supply chain is absolutely essential. And so our customs brokerage, our operations in Mexico as well, our warehouses and our trucking are all part of the U.S. Customs and Border Protection CTPAT, which stands for the Customs Trade Partnership Against Terrorism. And those are very strict protocols and security and background checks that all of our personnel must go through federal background checks. We have to be a drug and alcohol-free workplace by regulation, and this is just the program that Customs administers. Next slide, please. Added value on the customs brokerage services. I kind of alluded to this, and this one down here, you'll notice on the and down below it has the hours. So those are the hours of operations for Otay Mesa. All of the operations, they'll have similar but different hours, particularly extended hours, depending on the flows and the seasonality of the ports. We'll see variations in that. And then as far as being a leader in what we do, it says 1938, we are amongst the top 3 largest companies, 3PLs on the southern border, and the only one that's privately held. Next slide, please. This slide kind of shows something that is we've developed in our software. It's fully integrated. Our clients can track every movement and where their cargo is, what the status is. They can do this online, both for their warehouse operations, which we'll get into in a minute, but also for their import exports. They can transmit the data to us electronically. We process that data. Then we populate through the customs portals and all the other agencies. You know, U.S. Customs, it kind of is their portal. It also covers 47 different federal agencies that might be have a jurisdiction over a particular shipment, whether it be USDA, APHIS, whether it's FDA, Consumer Product Safety Commission, Firearms and Tobacco, Copyright and Patent. There's a long list of agencies that run their requirements in conjunction, parallel with U.S. Customs in processing. And so our software, our personnel have to be trained and knowledgeable on the requirements for every one of these agencies in order to properly classify, value, and ensure that the products are marked correctly, and so that they can be processed without a problem. Next slide. This also, FDA is very critical, as one of the biggest. They have their own classification for products, but FDA is probably the other agency that we do the most work with, and in conjunction with U.S. Customs. And so, as it notes on this slide, we have to have good relationships, not just with CBP, but FDA, because their personnel are at the ports of entry. And they're one of those agencies, like any of the 47, that have what's called release authority. In other words, we can clear the customs part, but if we don't properly clear the FDA or the USDA or any of the others, then they can hold that shipment or force us to return the shipment to Mexico. And that, as you can imagine, creates a huge quandary, a lot of problems, because once it's been exported from Mexico, if it has to go back, it has to be re-imported back to Mexico. And that isn't always possible. And so everything has to be pretty much perfect. And so having an experience and knowledge in these areas is critical to our personnel. If you go to work for R.L. Jones, we have families that are third generation working for our company, because the learning curve for folks to get the training in all these areas and have this knowledge is extensive. Next slide. This is just in the medical area. Now, these are clients that we have in the medical area, which Food and Drug is one of those agencies they have to go through. These are OTI, but some of these companies use our offices in other ports because they have manufacturing operations in multiple locations in Mexico. Next slide, please. I mentioned briefly the different information that we're, as a customs brokers, are required to get from our customers, ascertain its veracity, its applicability, properly classify products, and in many cases, we have clients that come to us and they're not sure. They've been a domestic U.S. company and now they're going to have an operation in Mexico. And so they don't understand sometimes all of those things they need to do. And so this kind of, some of these other consulting services are really important if they're going to change what they're doing. Again, evaluation and reconciling their values for customs purposes, and understanding the tariffs and how they bind them. If they don't have if we have an issue where there's multiple classifications, we may go for a binding ruling through customs in their various centers for that they have around the United States that are product centric. And then some of the others are legal matters, and again, I think the last thing is more. We have I think we just have we have another one now that recently passed their test. We encourage our employees to improve themselves. We provide all of the books and some of the training, and help them to become licensed brokers or licensed or certified import specialist levels for them as part of their continuing education. So I think we're up to 12 now. Next slide. This again, it shows El Paso, San Luis, Calexico, San Diego. San Diego, these are our U.S., 4 of our U.S. locations. But if you look at all of our locations on U.S. and Mexico, we're actually about 1.25 million square feet total. Our San Diego has been expanding recently. They're close to 500,000 if you include Tijuana and San Diego in the square footage of warehouse and operations, freight forwarding operations that they have there. And we have some of those warehouses have bonded sections. We work in foreign trade zones. That's what an FTZ is. It's like it's a customs zone, so you can bring things into an FTZ without paying the duty. You can fabricate it. You can just store it and manipulate it, and then you can export it out of the country again without ever having to pay duty, or you can import it into the United States from a foreign trade zone with certain benefits in terms of the classifications that might be applicable to you. We have our own web-based warehouse management systems that manage the product inside our warehouses, And we'll, as we move into the slides here a little bit more, I'll be able to describe that a little bit better for you. Next slide. Maquiladora cross-docking services. Some of our customers like, Flextronics or Foxtron and others that are large OEM manufacturers, and we have other clients do that. They build product to their clients' technology and specifications. And so a Foxtron might be building TV, flat screen TV thing for a whole number of companies. I can't necessarily tell you who their customers are. That's privilege. But they do that. And then when we ship a trailer load into the US, we have to be able to manage that inventory, segregate it, because the, let's say the Costco truck, when it shows up, it's got a certain order of certain brands of TVs and sizes that have to be shipped in that. And so what we do in what we call cross-docking, we have finished goods coming in from Mexico onto our floor, and in the same day, we're turning it around and shipping it out all over the country, all over the world. And then we have raw materials coming in that will then be shipped as needed, just in time, through those same conveyances back to the plant where they're assembling or fabricating these. And so the velocity is how we make our money. I mean, we do charge storage, but it's not something we make a business out of. Our business is in high velocity turnover. Most of the products in our facilities are there for 24 to 36 hours. Anything longer than that is it actually is problematic, and because there may be an issue, because the products, before they go into Mexico, the Mexican requirements are so stringent. If there's just one thing wrong with that, the whole shipment can be seized, and they're penalized for it a great deal of money. So we actually have Mexican brokers and specialists work in our U.S. facilities that check all of the products, the numbers, make sure that the invoices and packing slips match and are translated properly into Spanish, so that they can then be presented for Mexican documentation and import into Mexico. So we do these kinds of services for all of our many of our clients. Next slide. The vendor managed inventory I mentioned, and we have our own warehouse technology and software. We have about I think 15 or 16 programmers that work in several locations that program our EDI as well as our warehouse inventory management systems, so that our clients can literally manage their inventories in our warehouses remotely and virtually. Every time we have stuff come in and out, they're notified, and they can see what they have, where they have it, when it came in, and track it. And so this is an important service for our customers, so that they know what they have and when it arrived and who shipped it. Next, please. This again is a diagram that kind of shows the process on what we call our pick and packs, which again I mentioned that a client will ask us, they will electronically tell us, here's our pick and pack order, who's going to pick it up, the trucking information that's going to pick it up, when they're going to arrive, so that we have basically a reservation for them and an assignment. So when the truck rolls in and backs up to one of our docks, the shipment is already ready to go, been fully documented, and it's packed in the order and the products out of our inventories there that they have selected themselves. And of course, being that we're right along the border, our close proximity allows that daily pickups for all of our cars. Some of them are coming in and out many times over a single day. Next, please. eWarehouse is our brand that we of the software that we have developed over the years, and it's very popular with our clients. We have some clients that actually under license will utilize our software because they are so happy with the way they manage it. It's managed in our facilities. some of our clients have multiple facilities where the products go, and then they can be further distributed in Mexico. And so it's an excellent software. It's always evolving as the trade evolves, and it's all done in-house, and it's very visible and very user-friendly. Next, please. Freight Chopper is another brand. That's our freight forwarding, international freight forwarding, and so it handles all modalities. So we whether it's going out of LAX or San Pedro or Houston, regardless, they're able to do to arrange these. They line up and get contract with the different carriers. And make all the arrangements for the shipping of the goods to other countries around the world, as well as domestically. And that is the Freight Chopper is the brand name for that portion of what we do as a 3PL. Next, please. United Shipping is a very, very important partner. We are a member of United Shipping. They are a worldwide organization of trusted partners and in their system. And so we partner with customs brokers and warehouse and trucking and airlines that all are part of the United Shipping. We have for ocean, we have our own, we have rates. We'll set rates with shipping companies that we can utilize that are benefit our customers. And then when this whole worldwide network is coming to the border, we are the broker for the United Shipping for all of the major ports on the southern border. So any of those agents around the world are members. If they have something going to Mexico, they might use us to handle it at the border for them. Next slide, please. Performance management is something that we've gotten into more recently, and it's a critical piece for some of our clients. We're actually about halfway through on both the U.S. and Mexican side of our operations of getting all of our locations certified as ISO 9000, and so we apply these practices in how we do it, our work, and many of our clients through the KPI, we help them manage their business so they can do what's better. So it's more than just shipping and delivering. You know, we want a pallet of this delivered here. No, we work with them on all of their goals, and so it's I want to say more holistic, I guess, because we work on that relationship and what are the goals of the client, and then we measure ours and their performance based on what their needs are, so that we can meet their needs. Not about our needs, it's about meeting theirs. And you have to do that through close collaboration and good communication with your customers. Next, please. In the area of technologies, we're one of the more, I guess, techie companies in what we do in international trade as a 3PL. Like I mentioned, we have a lot of programming on our own. Our CIO, our Chief Information Officer, like I said, has a staff probably closer between programmers and technicians around 30. Or so that in different locations that work under his leadership. We are into redundant. We have, for instance, our locations have our own backup generators, so that if there's a local power outage or problem, ours start up. If customs is working, if customs systems are up and working, we have to be up and working. When you look at some of the clients on our medical, and you see some of the clients on the slide further down, these are companies that are operating 24/7 on an international basis, and if they're down more than 15 to 20 minutes, 30 minutes, if we're down for 30 minutes, my phone is ringing off the hook. I mean, it is, people are upset because we're talking about thousands of shipments, and if they're working in a just-in-time environment, the cost of keeping a production line open, if they don't have the right materials there, is hugely costly for them. And so having this kind of technology, we also have it in-house, and then we have contracts with AWS for both the Western and Eastern centers for cloud services and backup services. So we have backups to the backups to the backups and redundant, and that includes communications. So we work with more than one vendor in communications, so that if one is having a problem, we can switch. Some of our capabilities through microwave, we'll even switch to Mexican carriers if that's what it takes to keep going. Next, please. I've mentioned that we have Mexican operations. We have a comercializadora that is a third-party trading company that so customers, people who have an on-site or FOB delivered price to an operation in Mexico, but they are not an importer in Mexico. They don't have an import license, or not. They don't have they're not incorporated in Mexico. Will use us to do the importing for them. It's a government regulated thing, similar to a customs brokerage, where we're a third-party trading company. We import it on their behalf and then transfer it to their customer for them to get paid. We operate in many locations, our own Mexican customs brokerage and freight forwarding operations, and we have about 400,000 square feet, I think, if last count, if I include all the different locations of warehouses that we operate down there for the as part of our comercializadora and Mexican customs brokerage operations. Next, please. Okay. This is just this is a display of some of the different services. EMEX is that's the corporate form in Mexico that maquiladoras that are going to import temporarily and export. So this is referring to some of the services that we provide in Mexico. As a matter of fact, I think one of our partners is on the national board for EMEX in Mexico. Next, please. I mentioned that we do petitions. There's court cases and court findings. There's binding rulings that we might need. Sometimes customers disagree with customs and want to protest and file a formal protest with U.S. Customs. And so we have developed a relationship. They're not in-house, but the Sizer Group is our customs attorneys and consultants. They're excellent. They do a number of series of, if you can look them up on their website, they do their own training series on CTPAT, for instance, that I mentioned before, and other aspects of importing and exporting that have a legal issue. There might have a legal issue associated with him. So he's a licensed customs broker as well as an attorney specializing in customs and maritime law. And then here again, we're 11. I think we just hit 12, and growing, because we have other members of our team that are studying for their licenses. Next, please. This is just some of the clients that we handle in Mexico, and again, many of these companies like Flex and Toyota, Foxconn, Sony, and Honeywell's another one, Windstrom. They use multiple lanes. They have plants all around Mexico, so they might be using our McAllen office, or they might be using our Laredo office, or Tijuana, San Diego office. This is some of the customers that we handle. And it's a very eclectic group. It's not like one thing. We handle a lot of produce. We handle processed foods. Like I said, I showed you before, the medical devices. We have quite a bit of clientele there. And this is another sampling of the customer base that we have. Next. I believe, is just a listing, and this is a little bit more on based on the industries some of our customers are in that I thought might be of interest to folks. And with that, I think it concludes my 30 minutes that I was supposed to speak. I think I'm right on
The border
time.
between the United States and Mexico, the busiest commercial border in the world, has multiple points of entry. R.L. Jones, specialists in customs and international trade solutions since 1938, is able to provide integrated services along the southern border. With more than 600 employees, R.L. Jones has created a solid team that serves the extremely demanding maquiladora industry, which expects quick response times and flexible solutions to support all of their import and export needs in California, Arizona, and Texas. Whether through Los Angeles, San Diego, Tecate, Calexico, San Luis, Nogales, El Paso, Laredo, and far. R.L. Jones manages international trade solutions by land, sea, and air, as well as services in customs brokerage, warehousing, and logistics for many industries, including agriculture, electronics, automotive, and medical devices. Our strong and reliable operations, in addition to our professional links with United Shipping's global network, make us a trustworthy and versatile partner, suitable for the entire supply chain at the southern border. We seek to provide personalized attention to all our customers. With more than 80 years of experience, we have successfully applied technological advances in order to develop our own digital platforms and apps to facilitate our customs, logistics, and warehouse services. We understand the dynamics at the border. Therefore, we maintain close communication with authorities of both countries in order to keep up with the latest changes in all governmental policies and regulations. In a complex world of complicated trade agreements, the growth of the manufacturing industry, and the diversification of merchandise in transit, R.L. Jones continues to be a competitive service provider while maintaining our core values of integrity, dependability, and flexibility on the most dynamic border in the world.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Mr. Jones. That was an amazing presentation, my goodness. And we do have a few questions that came in through the Q&A. Let's see. Somebody had asked, with your many successful partnerships with United Shipping, Freight Shipper, and obviously Zeiser Group, what do you look for when implementing or developing a successful partnership within your business?
We've grown and evolved more organically. We have had affiliates and that started as kind of partnerships, and in several cases we have kind of absorbed them as part of those associates' exit strategies. And we've always taken the position that in our partnerships that it has to be a true partnership. I mean, it's not like we're in charge and we tell them what to do. It has to be win-win. And we don't want to get into any partnership where we can't work as friends and stay friends, and it benefits all sides. And our integrity is probably the most important thing that we have. And I learned from my father and my grandfather, and I've tried to impart that with the others, is that if you make a mistake, own up to it. Just don't do it again. and there's no guarantee that it may not happen again, but you just have to be upfront and candid and work. And it's about communications, honest, open communications with your partners, and not having unrealistic expectations of them, and not promising more than you can deliver.
Wonderful. And being that you can look at the differences after so many years in the industry within California port of entries, Arizona, as well as Texas, could you speak to a little as to the future of the commercial port of entry here in San Luis? Because essentially you were there when it was just desert out in the middle of nowhere, and now with this new facility. And so just a little bit of reflection on what you've seen in the past, what you're seeing in the present, and hopefully what the future brings for it.
Boy, you're going back a few years because when I first went to San Luis, the only paved street was Highway 95, and then it stopped at when it got to Mexico, just short of it, and there was nothing paved over there. And where the customs is right now used to be a baseball field because the kids on the Mexican side didn't have a place to play baseball, so they cross over the border and play baseball there. But it's it's grown just a little bit. San Luis has incredible. I mentioned that it's grown by 225%. It's the most up-to-date modern, even though it's been there 10 years. I know. It is. We haven't been building new ports of entry. We've been fixing and expanding others on the Mexican border, but we haven't been building brand new ones. Now there's a new one coming in Otay Mesa. But for the most part, we've just been expansion mode. So this port was well designed. It has the technology built into it, and so it can handle easily, I believe, 1,000 trucks a day, and or without any other additional expansion. Where are we now? I would say we're probably in the 300 to 400 a day. And that's one way. So if a truck comes in, generally speaking, it has to go out again. So the roadway there, E Street or Avenue E, that goes to San Luis East, is a critical piece of infrastructure. It needs to be protected. There's a tremendous amount of growth in San Luis going on right now. There's demand for more housing and other services. But at all costs, I think we have to, because the port of entry is an asset for the entire four-fronted area, just as Calexico East is part of our four-fronted area, and its importance. I know that there's going to be an expansion of Calexico East. The funds have been provided by the city of Calexico to expand that, and that's going to be critical for them, because the backups and waits at our offices in there for Calexico Mexicali are significantally longer than San Luis, and that's why San Luis is getting more and more traffic because of congestion in Mexicali, and so that congestion needs to be addressed, and then eventually we're going to have to, and there's plenty of room out there. It was designed to be able to be more than double its capacity. So if they use all the land they have out there, they should easily be able to handle, 2,000, 2,500 trucks a day. Now, when we're going to get that far, it's a little ways down the road, but right now there's great capacity. The wait times are minimal because the flow and the way it's designed to handle the international traffic. Plus, we're the only San Luis is the only port that has unified cargo processing. Unified cargo processing is where the Mexican customs and other agency officials actually cross every day and go to work in the United States. And they work together at U.S. Customs there at San Luis East. And so the trucks are processed out of Mexico and in the United States in one location. When the trucks go to Mexico, it's the same thing. They process them together. So when they're doing one inspection, they all get to inspect a cargo. And it's a hugely successful, and the only port anywhere on the southern border that does 100% of the processing in and out of Mexico through unified cargo processing is San Luis. Huge advantage. Other advantage we have is we can do overweights. You can have over 90,000 pounds. You can buy an overweight permit, and you have to follow a certain designated route. But in Arizona, you can do overweights, just like Texas can. California won't let you do that. So if you have an overweight cargo, you can't go through California. If you have certain, I wouldn't say not toxic, but hazardous materials that are being shipped to the United States because of their toxicity, California EPA rules are so stringent that you can't cross them through California. So they cross through Arizona, and San Luis gets the majority of it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that answer. And we have another question that came in from James Schusler, who serves as the executive director for the Yuma Multiversity Campus. And he said, if Yuma County attracts new manufacturers to the area, can that be helpful to the growth of your company?
Oh, I mean, if they have needs for services, now they could be a 100% domestic company in Yuma, but need or require freight forwarding, international freight forwarding and booking services. They could, if they require trucking into Long Beach, for instance, or to LAX. So there are services that our offices in San Luis, our general manager there is Daniel Basua. He's been with our company for many, many, many years and is a licensed broker and can provide those services there to assist companies in Yuma to export to Mexico or export anywhere in the world. And he has the expertise right there to do it. So that should be a way to attract more industry to the area, because you have these kinds of services available to help companies that are engaged or wish to engage in international trade.
Wonderful. And going on along with that, Dr. Daniel Kaur from Arizona Western College asked, Russ, are you able to find the employees you need? How can higher education better serve your needs?
I mentioned that the learning curve is tremendous in this industry, and are probably the easiest, and even those aren't easy, are materials handling people that are that have to be. They're more than just a forklift operator. They have to run computers. They have to be able to look up and receive these pick orders, go to the numbered locations and slots throughout our facilities to locate the right materials to bring them in and to set them up for an export, or if it's an import, to take them to the right. So it's more than being just a forklift operator. You really have to be a true materials handler, and that's probably the least complicated job that we have. So as you work your way up into the clerical areas, it takes years of training and experience. There's great opportunity. We have to kind of grow our own, and so we're really picky on who we bring in. And then the other thing we have is, I mentioned, if you're going to work in this industry, you better have a clean record. We may be approving recreational marijuana, but if you're into recreational marijuana, you're not going to work for us, because everybody in the company, including myself, are subject to random testing for both alcohol and drugs. And so if your name pops up, you're done, because we have to report that to customs, and so they don't look very kindly on personnel that have a history of that kind of usage and in and around imports, because they could be involved. So it's part of the security and the CTPAT. So you have to have a clean record, and you have to have all of the abilities and truly be bilingual, because you're dealing with customers that only speak Spanish, but the regulatory stuff that you have to learn and understand is written in regulatoryese. If you've ever read federal regulations, the wherefores, art thous, and all that's in there, it's really hard to absorb, and so it's very demanding. So great opportunity. We have very low turnover.
Wonderful. And then Mr. Glenn Williamson from the Arizona Canada, Business Council. How much work do you do with Canada?
We're doing more and more with Canada, and as Canadian companies are looking, and some of through our comercializadora I mentioned. So Canadian companies have a client in Mexico. They want to be able to deliver to the client in Mexico. It's shipped to our U.S. locations. We process it into Mexico, goes to the comercializadora, which then processes that and then transfers title of the goods to the customer, and so that the Canadian company can be paid. So they can operate and sell to people in Mexico without being an importer in Mexico.
Okay, understood. Wonderful. And with that, Mr. Jones, with you being an Arizona State Rep, Chairman of the Board, appointed to various commissions, now licensed, obviously, insurance broker, customs broker, and a notary. Any advice to this up-and-coming generation of leadership for their future successes, obviously following along with how successful you've been just on the U.S. side as well as on the Mexican side?
All I can say is get involved. Sitting back, working on your iPad or your computer, get involved, get engaged with organizations and others in your community, and you'll find just incredible opportunities for public service and involvement in your community. And I've been blessed in that way. I've enjoyed every bit of it. I've learned so much from that, and highly recommend it.
Wonderful. And even though we know Governor Ducey is here in Yuma, and he didn't
I was
necessarily
supposed to be
join
with
us.
I tried, he asked me to be on that roundtable today, and I said, well, I already have a commitment, Governor Ducey, I'm sorry, but we could probably find some time on the program, but I guess he's at his roundtable right now, so a little conflict there.
That's true. And here we thought he was going to make a cameo. So
yeah, hey, if I tried.
Right, it's okay. So again, we just want to say our welcome to the governor. We acknowledge that he's here, down here, looking firsthand to what's going on the border, and that's very important and crucial to all of us. And kind of going back on the supply chain disruption with the Suez Canal and the Texas freezes, COVID kind of looming over everything. It's just a sheer reflection on how flexible we have all been to really kind of get through what could have been, very detrimental times. And you've probably seen that within your business, within both countries. And that's just really something to kind of applaud everybody working through, right? And then working through, I guess you can say successfully, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, yeah. Very, very pleased. No complaints.
Right. Okay. Wonderful. Well, again, Mr. Jones, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate your presentation. If anybody would like a copy of the presentation, please feel free to email me directly. I'm bgeorge@gypa.org. And we are also, taking suggestions. If there's a webinar, if there's something you would like more information on, we're more than happy. Just like Mr. Jones said, we are getting involved. We're wanting to really highlight the Forefront ED mega region assets, and we are here to serve our community. So if we can do anything for you, please contact us. Mr. Jones, thank you so much again for your time, and thank you for everybody joining us today.
Take care.
Thank you.